On today's show, the Pacers are headed back to the Eastern Conference Finals after ending the Cavs season in Game 5, and Jokic's monster night wasn't enough as SGA and the Thunder take a 3-2 series lead. It's all coming up right here at Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
What is up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And joining me is my partner in crime, David Ramil, the host of Locked On Heat. David, we had 2 Game 5s in the NBA last night. What did you see?
Aside from our predictions of the Cavaliers somehow finding a way to coast through the series, and of course of the Thunder collapse that never actually did manifest. No, aside from that, we saw some pretty great basketball and some big upsets to boot. So it was a lot of fun, especially for just a night with 2 games on the slate.
Indiana proving that maybe last year's run to the Eastern Conference Finals was not a fluke as they make it back. They become the first team in NBA playoff history to make back-to-back conference finals appearances as a 4 seed or lower since the playoff expansion of 1984. So some fun stats for you there. We want to thank you for making a Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen each and every single day. We're going to dive straight in here with this Pacers-Cavs game. The Pacers send the Cavaliers packing in 5 games. They won all 3 games on the Cavs' home floor. Let's go to Locked On Pacers for more on this Game 5 performance.
Pacers 114, Cavs 105, Pacers 4, Cavs 1. It's over. The Pacers are going to the conference finals for the 2nd straight year. They just beat a 64-win team in their house 3 times in one series. Tonight, the one to seal it. Special game for the Pacers, who show basically everything that makes them the team that they are to win it. Down 19 early, but they never quit. They never give up. Their resolve is one of their superpowers. They fought back from down 19. Tyrese Haliburton, special player, having a nice little run since he got called overrated in a player poll. Goes crazy in the second quarter, finishes with 31 points. The Pacers' first 30-point scorer in an individual game this entire playoffs. Their balance led them in the second half. Cavs march back, make it a game. Donovan Mitchell playing great. Andrew Nembhard hits big threes. Miles Turner hits big threes. Pascal Siakam punishes some switches on smalls in the paint. Their bench, very good. Thomas Bryant, maybe the best quarter he's had the whole playoffs. That's what the Pacers have. They have balance, they have stars, they have resolve, and they have a 2nd straight trip to the Eastern Conference Finals. More on Locked On Pacers coming tomorrow.
Just fantastic resolve by the Pacers here, David, in a Game 5 where, I feel like teams, when they go up, 3-1 like that, they have a chance to close out a team. On the road, it's really hard sometimes to take those Game 5s, knowing in the back of your mind, okay, you've got that home game, Game 6, your own home crowd. You just take care of business there. But the Pacers went in there, and not only did they go in there and take care of business, they were down 19 at one point, and to rally back from that, Tyrese Haliburton, his play there in the second quarter, sometimes I get the feeling that it almost takes teams by surprise. Like, they should know by now just how deadly Haliburton is, but he's such a pass-first guy trying to get other guys involved that when he decides to hunt his own shot, I feel like it almost catches guys by surprise sometimes. He had 5 triples there in that second quarter.
Yeah, no, not just that. I mean, of course, the range is still a little off-putting. Very few players feel that comfortable pulling up from the kind of range that Hallie does. But aside from guys like Curry and Trey in Atlanta, you don't really see that as often. But this is who he is. This is who he's been since he's been on this all-star trajectory for the last few seasons. And he's as dangerous a player as you get. I couldn't believe the poll that called him overrated. I don't know who was polled. I don't know if they were trying to piss off Haliburton and the rest of his teammates, but either way, it worked. And he's just a phenomenal player. And look, his inconsistency early in the year is pretty well documented. We talked about it a lot. It's hard to know exactly what went into that, whether or not there was a lingering injury or whether or not he was just not getting acclimated to his teammates. I don't know exactly what it was, but he has been fantastic this postseason, and he's carried this team to a conference finals berth. It's an incredible performance from the Pacers, really making a very, very good Cavaliers team look like they didn't even belong in the same stage. And that's something that I never thought was possible.
Yeah, look, the Cavs are no longer on fraud watch. They are fraudulent at this point. Injuries or no injuries, like you do not win 60+ games and then get ousted in 5 games in the conference semifinals. Like it was conference finals was a minimum for this Cavs team with how they played in the regular season, and so they failed to meet those expectations. The Cavs managed to be up just 4 points at halftime because the Pacers stormed back. They got themselves back in this game with that big second quarter. They won that quarter 33-25. Indiana had in that third frame a 19-2 run at one point in the third quarter where they held the Cavs for it was like either just under or just over 7 straight minutes with no field goals. And that's the crazy thing. That's the main difference between last year's Pacers team and this year's Pacers team. Yeah. They have an ability to lock in defensively and really put the clamps on really any team that they're up against.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I know this is going to be the most simplistic analysis perhaps in NBA media history, but you look at the two teams and their performance in Game 5, and it just really felt so apparent that Indiana wanted this on a level that Cleveland did not. And there were a lot of 50-50 balls. They went Indiana's way. Cleveland just didn't have the effort, the intensity. They looked like they were playing for anything rather than playing to defend an opportunity to come back in the series. And they're at home. It's inexcusable. But the Cavs looked really, really shaky. And I think a lot of that was, one, their own whatever constitution makeup, however you want to label it. And at the same time, the Pacers just playing games. Like they were dominating this team. They were just making it look bad, breaking their backs at every opportunity. They saw an opportunity, the blood in the water, and they went after it with such incredible intensity. And to Tony's point, great depth, great balance across the board, and a renewed sense of defensive presence that you would not associate normally with this Indiana Pacers team. But clearly, as you said, they have been much improved this season, and we saw it on display this series.
On the Cavs side of things, I mean, they made this a game despite choking up that lead and letting Indiana get out in front, and then they clawed back into it. And they had a chance, man. They were right there, a couple possessions down, tail into the game. Donovan Mitchell gets sent to the free throw line Donovan Mitchell started to drain some threes there late in the game. It felt like he was just trying to get something going because the Cavs just had nothing offensively in this game. Only 10 assists on their 35 made shots. They were not moving the basketball very well. Credit to the Pacers defense in this one. But Donovan Mitchell was trying, man. I mean, he was getting to the free throw line. Donovan Mitchell by himself had 21 trips to the free throw line. The Pacers as a team had 22 attempted free throws in this game. But it took Donovan Mitchell 25 shots to get his 35 points, but he had a chance there, down 106-100, was sent to the free throw line on a 3-point attempt, 3 free throws, missed all 3 of them. That possession was where I was like, okay, Cavs are done. And that possession is going to haunt Donovan Mitchell all off season.
Yeah, haunting is the right way to put it. Like I'm old enough to remember the Nick Anderson game for the Orlando Magic, and you hate to see a player kind of just break down in those key moments. And it's so surprising too, because Mitchell, I mean, you pointed it out, he hit some big shots and he even responded after those missed free throws with a 3-pointer of his own. But like he usually steps up and he's usually so consistent in that scenario that you didn't expect him to miss. 1, maybe. All 3? No, I don't know what that was. Something got into his head a little bit and he looked shaky. You see the production and you look, yeah, he had a big night, but it was a lot of junk, a lot of shots that he doesn't normally take or not as effective in taking them. And again, credit the Indiana defense because they made him do things that he probably doesn't normally do or isn't forced to normally do, but he just did not look as effective as he has, and he just didn't seem to have it. But to your point, he was really their only source of scoring because nobody else was stepping up. Like you had an 0 for 9 shooting night from Max Strus. I know he got in foul trouble early. That must have taken him out of his rhythm, but he was just a non-factor. That's not why he was brought in there for. Darius Garland went 4 of 16, probably dealing with some lingering injury of his own. I thought Mobley was at least a good complementary player, and it was key that it was pretty clear that Cleveland was trying to get their bigs going, and he had some nice performance there from Mobley and Jared Allen. But it was too little too late. And their bench didn't really contribute much at all, despite what had been a really strong, deep bench for most of the regular season. And certainly what we saw in their earlier series against the Miami Heat, where that depth really came up big. But I think that's more an indictment on what the Heat are than anything else. But yeah, it really surprised. I know we'll talk about the Cavs a little bit later and how fraudulent they are and what has to happen next, but still really surprising outcome to this game.
Kind of the story of the series, the game, right? Where, Donovan Mitchell was pouring his blood, sweat, tears, everything, and he was the only source of that consistent offense. Meanwhile, on the Pacers, right, they got some big-time closing buckets from Andrew Nembhard, and Miles Turner showed up big in those final moments to be able to pull away after Donovan Mitchell did cut it to a one-possession game, 106-103, with that three-pointer that he hit after missing those 3 free throws at the charity stripe. Just not enough down the stretch to close out some of these games in this series. Cleveland's season comes to an end. Indiana advances to the Eastern Conference Finals for the second straight year. Be sure to go check out Locked on Pacers and Locked on Cavs for more. We will be talking about the Cavaliers a little bit later on in the show as well. We've got more thoughts on them, but coming up here in just a moment, the Thunder take game 5 despite Nikola Jokic's monster night, thanks to their MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and some heroics from one Lu Dort. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Wayfair. Look, the days are getting longer, the weather's warming up, and people are spending more time outside, which means it's the perfect time to refresh your outdoor space. Whether you're working with a big backyard or a small balcony, Wayfair has everything you need to make it feel more like you. Wayfair's massive selection of outdoor essentials makes it easy to transform any space into your ideal summer setup. From comfy conversation sets to sleek dining tables and outdoor decor, they've got it all, and at prices that fit your budget. You can grab a brand new patio dining set and some string lights from Wayfair to help extend your outdoor space. I was actually recently in the market for some new outdoor patio furniture. We have a deck that we just finished kind of redoing here at the house, and I was able to grab a brand new set. It looks awesome out there. I love it. They had exactly what I was looking for. The mix of styles that they offer, there's really something for everyone. Wayfair makes it super easy to find pieces that match your vibe without spending a fortune. So shop a huge selection of outdoor furniture online this summer. Get outside with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's wayfair.com. Wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. And continuing on here at Locked On NBA Game Night. Thanks so much for making Game Night your first listen each and every day. For your next listen, go check out Locked On Pacers, or go check out Locked On Cavs, or check out a couple of these next Locked On teams we're about to be discussing as we get into the Western Conference Game 5 battle between the Thunder and Nuggets, the battle of the MVPs, Nikola Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and SGA and the Thunder coming out on top in this one. Let's check out Locked On Thunder for more.
Oklahoma City Thunder get an improbable Game 5 win. They got down by 9-10 points to the Denver Nuggets. Nikola Jokic was incredible. And in the third quarter, start of the fourth quarter, this young team did not look like they were going to be able to get the car back on the road. But as is the case for this entire season, the Thunder improbably answer the call. They stay poised, they stay together, they just keep fighting. Young teams are not supposed to be able to close games in the fashion in which this one went. But Jokic playing the entire fourth quarter and hitting an improbable behind, spinning around back foot 3. But the Thunder did it with SGA hitting the dagger at the end and some free throws down the stretch that were huge as well. Ultimately, Lu Dort coming alive saved this Thunder season. Not only his 3 threes in the fourth quarter, but a literal save on a long rebound to get the Thunder an extra possession and an extra bucket that became timely in the end. OKC wins Game 5. They have 2 games to win 1 to send themselves to their first Western Conference Finals since 2016. More Locked On Thunder.
Man, David, this game was everything you would want out of a postseason game between two of the best players in the world, right? Watching Nikola Jokic kind of respond and bounce back here in Game 5, just another dominant performance from him, very similar to his Game 1 performance where he just put the Nuggets on his back. 44 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 17 of 25 shooting for Jokic in this one. He was 5 of 7 from downtown. And then on the other side, the other MVP candidate, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 31 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks on 12 of 23 shooting, went 6 of 6 at the charity stripe, only hit 1 3-pointer. But that 1 3 that he hit was the backbreaker, the dagger. That was the shot that was basically like, no, you're putting the Nuggets to bed in this one.
An incredible game, and to see your superstars play at it and go at attacking one another and just finding ways to carry their respective teams. But the difference there, I think, was really the supporting cast. We heard Rylan talking about Lu Dort, but you also had Alex Caruso stepping up. You had a number of players. Chet Holmgren had a couple of big buckets down the stretch. Like, there were a number of guys that really stepped up for Oklahoma City, whereas Jokic really had to do it all. And I think you look at that stat line, as impressive as it was, and what really stands out, surprisingly to me, is the 5 assists, just 5 assists from one of the best playmakers in the league. Why? Because nobody else could hit a shot. I mean, you had Jamal Murray, you had some okay production from Aaron Gordon, and other than that, they just got a little over double digits from their bench. You didn't get the kind of production that you need from a guy like Russell Westbrook. He's been such an integral part of their success this season. And you had basically, it was Jokic on an island trying to carry this team and do everything he possibly could to push this team to a victory. And it just wasn't enough despite the monster production.
Yeah, the Nuggets as a team, just 28.3% from downtown, 13 of 46. Look, and Murray got, kind of hot there for a stretch in the third quarter, but didn't ultimately give them enough. And again, getting just absolutely nothing from MPJ. Look, I understand he's dealing with like the shoulder injury stuff, but even those final moments of the game where the Nuggets needed a bucket, they needed something to go down, and Jokic had scored something like 13 straight points for Denver, and Jokic had to trust one of his teammates to do something. He gets a beautiful kick out to MPJ and has nothing, right? Back-to-back misses there at the end for MPJ. Russell Westbrook at one point in this game had back-to-back airballed 3-pointers. Like, just it was a really rough showing from the supporting cast for Denver. On the other side, for the
backbreakers. Those are backbreakers, right? Like, imagine, like, you're carrying the team, you're doing everything you have to, and you're doing as much as you possibly can, as any individual possibly can, and you're getting no support whatsoever. Like, that's difficult. Even for as great a player as Jokic is, that has to be somewhat demoralizing that you're not getting any support whatsoever.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. And even like, even the ridiculous, like, shot clock winding down, Jokic has to put up a prayer turnaround 3 over the outstretched arms of Chet Holmgren. Like, that was one of those moments where you just thought, oh my God, how does this guy keep doing this? And it really was him doing everything for this Nuggets team. On the flip side with the Thunder, I was really impressed with their ability to play from behind, right? Rylan talked about it a little bit there a moment ago, but young teams, when they find themselves in positions like this, they tend to be a little bit more rattled, right, than the veteran team. And the Nuggets are a team that, they've been there, done that. They've won a championship. And I was really shocked that the Thunder were able to turn this thing around. They trailed by 8 going into the fourth quarter. And they just kept chipping away. They kept making the smart play, the strong play. Their defense really turned it up a notch there down the stretch. And I guess how much of it was the Thunder defense, though, in that fourth quarter versus just nobody, outside of Jokic being able to get anything going offensively for Denver?
I think a lot of it was their defense. It feels more like this was just indicative of the style of play that they've had all season long when they're putting up these incredible numbers during the regular season. They were one of the best teams, obviously, in the regular season for a reason. And I think we got to see them kind of return to those very comfortable patterns for them. And I think it really is an inflection point. If they're going to achieve the kind of success that they're capable of, I think this was the inflection point, because we see them step up to this challenge and having to come from behind and having to shut down a really good team in Denver, an experienced team, as you said, and still find a way to get bucket after bucket and break that opponent down, albeit at home. It's a great challenge for them, obviously, still even trying to do this at home. But I still think it's a major point in kind of showing that this Thunder team is as capable as they seem, and that the youth factor isn't as much of a concern as we thought it might be.
One thing that really stood out in that fourth quarter offensively for Denver, not just like their inability to convert, it was the shots that they were choosing. They were settling for so many perimeter looks in the fourth quarter. And early on in this game, right, it was a 12-2 start with OKC jumping out to that 10-point lead early. And then that prompted a Denver timeout, right? And Adelman rallies the troops, and they came back and they reeled off like a straight, 8, 10, 12 points, whatever it was. And they were all paint touches. They were all buckets right at the rim. It was like, hey, guys, we need to do something other than just heave from outside, because they started 0-6 from downtown. And it was like, where was that, right? Like, I don't know if you're playing on dead legs. I don't know if you got nothing left in the tank, but they needed to get something more like downhill, some better paint touches. And Jokic was doing everything he could, but it was resulting in kickouts. And then guys just could not knock down their outside shots. Let's throw it out to Locked On Nuggets really quick. Hear their reaction to this Game 5 loss.
Man, that's a brutal loss for the Denver Nuggets. They go down in game 5 against the OKC Thunder. Jokic, he bounced back. He had been struggling over the last 3 games. He came to play, 44 points on 25 shots. He was great. Everybody else in the fourth quarter for Denver, 1 of 15 from the field. Just a shambolic offensive performance from the supporting cast tonight. Jamal Murray went 10 of 27. He had some moments, but 10 of 27 is not going to cut it. And then the rest of the team, 13 of 46 on the game. Denver didn't get enough on the road from their supporting cast. Jokic was great, but the defense was not. And Denver now down 3-2 in a series. We're going to see what happens, but I'm so curious as to the kind of effort that they bring in game 6. I don't know how much they have left in the tank.
You know, David, I had a sneaking feeling, and we'll see what happens in game 6, but I kind of had this feeling where if OKC took game 5, I kind of think that they're going to come back and finish this thing off in 6 on the road.
Well, I'm done making any predictions. I know that's what we're supposed to do, but it could go. It really could go either way. Would you be surprised if the Thunder win it, or if the Nuggets find a way to win it and tie the series up? I don't think either outcome feels very, very plausible, but I see the point. Like, again, I think it is a major point for the Thunder, a turning point for them to kind of just remember their identity and understand that they're capable of beating any team when it comes down to it. So if they go into Denver and have this monstrous performance, I think that would be more of an indictment on the fact that, again, the Thunder have remembered who they are, but also that the Nuggets kind of just gave up on themselves because they just don't have enough. And I think that's partly been what's defined their season.
Coming up, do the Cavs need change, and is Boston's season over without Jayson Tatum? We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Car Gurus. Look, shopping for a car should be exciting, not exhausting, but between the confusing prices and hidden fees, it can feel really overwhelming. That's why I love using Car Gurus. They help you cut through the noise and show you the best deals with full confidence. With over 4 million listings, Car Gurus has more new and used cars than any other major online marketplace in the US. They verify dealers, provide real price analysis, and give you the tools and data you need to make the right choice without second guessing yourself. Their best feature is the price drop alert, so you know exactly when the perfect car is available for your budget. Recently, was doing some car shopping with my girlfriend, and using Car Gurus was awesome because she has a few different makes and models in mind that she wants to be able to look for. And using their price drop feature, you're able to go in there and basically set it up to where you get alerted when certain vehicles become available, vehicles that match your price point, what you're looking to spend for your next car. So buy or sell your next car today with Car Gurus at cargurus.com. Go to cargurus.com to make sure your big deal is the best deal. That's cargurus.com, cargurus.com, cargurus.com. And final segment here at Locked On NBA Game Night. Let's go ahead and hear from Locked On Cavs as the Cleveland Cavaliers season comes to an end after that disappointing Game 5, disappointing series really as a whole for Cleveland. Let's hear what Locked On Cavs has to say.
Danny Cunningham here at Rocket Arena after the Cavaliers lose Game 5 to the Indiana Pacers, 114-105. Let's talk about this one and really this series for 94 feet. The Cavs were outplayed in just about every facet of basketball again tonight. That was a common theme throughout this very short, unexpected 5-game departure in the second round against the Indiana Pacers. The Cavs came into this series heavily favored. They were favored in all 5 games that were played, and they were outplayed by the Indiana Pacers. The Cavs have injuries. They could use that as an excuse. They shouldn't. I don't think they are. They won 64 games this year. This was supposed to be a season that ended with, at the very least, a trip to the conference finals, maybe the NBA finals, maybe holding the Larry O'Brien trophy. Instead, it ends at the same exact point it did last year after the Cavs won 48 games. After that, they fired head coach JB Bickerstaff. This year was supposed to be different. Unfortunately, the only thing different about it was the regular season. Now the Cavs are going to have to wear this all offseason. They're going to hear noise from critics. They're going to be compared to the 2015 Atlanta Hawks that won 60 games and got swept in the conference finals. They're going to have to wear that. That's what they're going to hear, and they will have to now wait until October to do anything about it.
At least the Hawks made it to the conference final. No, okay. All right. I'm done taking pot shots. All right. Look, so here's the thing with looking at this Cavs team, right? Donovan Mitchell's been there for 3 years. They have disappointed, I guess, maybe relative to expectations, at least these past couple years. Certainly this year, with how well they performed in the regular season. This core, right, of Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen, they've been together for a while now. The new variable that was really introduced this season was Kenny Atkinson, right? Upgrading from JB Bickerstaff to Kenny Atkinson. Also, you added DeAndre Hunter, sure, and there, a couple other variables. Max Strus mixed in there too. Some of the other supporting cast members. But David, does this Cavs team need change this offseason, or should they feel confident in running it back and just banking on health and things being different next year? Do you give Kenny Atkinson just a second year to see what he's got in the tank? Not saying you fire Kenny Atkinson. I'm just saying, like, do you need some kind of major change on the roster, I guess?
I think you explore it if you can. I don't see the pattern of them failing twice relative to their expectations. I think is enough to warrant change. If you had somehow found a way to come back, and again, I know the injuries played a part of that, but as you and I were talking about before even recording, neither of us are convinced that had even they remained healthy, that would have been much of a difference. Like, the team was healthy during the first two losses at home. So it wasn't really, I don't think it was as much of a factor as we want to point to it. It was a factor, but not the deciding factor. So I think if it's not the health, and I don't think it's a coaching, because I think Atkinson is a good coach, although maybe you could point to some miscues on his own part, but I really think it ultimately comes down to roster construction. And if that's the case, then you have to make some kind of a change. And I don't know what that change is. I don't know what you're going to be able to get for a player like Garland. I don't know if you'd even explore trading somebody like him, given his youth and the fact that he's a good complementary player. But you need something more. And I'm not sure. Again, this team is deep. This team was good enough. They put up incredible numbers during the regular season, and yet to fall flat on two consecutive postseasons is more of an indictment, again, on the roster itself and the players that you have there that don't step up in those moments. You can't pin this one on Mitchell because he was phenomenal. As inefficient as he was, I still think he was their best player by a wide margin, and he didn't give up, and he was carrying this team almost completely, not to the same level that we saw from Nikola Jokic, but also just trying his best to try to gut this out for the Cleveland Cavaliers team. He wasn't getting the kind of support anywhere else. And so I think they're going to have to make a move. If you want to capitalize and bring a title back to Cleveland, this is your best opportunity to do so. And it doesn't have to be anything massive. You don't want to blow things up, obviously, but adding a key player here and there and maybe sacrificing some of that depth so you can get another higher level complementary player is probably the priority.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I mean, I don't know how anybody could look at Donovan Mitchell for how he performed in this series and try to pin the blame on him, right? And even here in Game 5, right? He's playing on that bum ankle that he messed up in Game 4, and clearly was, laboring as this game wore on. And it was clearly messing with him, right? Again, only 8 for 25 shooting in this game. So despite the inefficient evening, he did find ways to get to the free throw line, trying to manufacture points any way that he could, trying to will the Cavs back into this game at one point, again, making it just a one possession game, 106-103, just eventually not enough to get over the hump. I didn't like some of the stuff that they did defensively in this game. It was like some of the switching stuff that Kenny was doing. I wasn't a big fan of, and it felt like the Pacers were kind of exploiting, taking advantage of. But, I think I'm with you. Like, the Cavs, I think they give this iteration of the team. I don't even necessarily know if you have to make a sweeping change. I think that maybe this is a good learning opportunity for Kenny Atkinson to go back and see, okay, what areas can he improve in, right? What can he do differently? And, even, injuries aside, Darius Garland probably playing a little hobbled in this one as well too right now. Like, so many guys not playing 100% for the Cavs, but like you already said, you cannot point to injuries as the deciding factor in the series. It certainly wasn't. But that being said, so much of just their offense was just awful there at the end of the game, right? And so much of it, and it repeatedly in the series, it came down to just, can Donovan Mitchell get you something at the end of the game, right? And that's just a failing on, I think, the coaching staff and maybe the execution of the guys on the floor. But you have a team that throughout the entire regular season showcased this ability where other guys could step up and role players were knocking down shots, and you had some great ball movement, and you had guys like Mitchell and Garland initiating offense and then kicking the ball out and swinging the passes around, and just all of that seemingly disappeared in this series. And I do think you give a bit of a hat tip to the Pacers and their defensive intensity, especially in this series. But at the same time, like, I felt like the Cavs just kind of got so much away from that, right? It'd be one screen, one action, and then one shot, and then that's it, right? Very little ball movement. Only 10 assists on 35 made shots. That is just an absurd number when you look at it in the context of how this game ultimately played out. So Cavaliers facing some questions this offseason for sure.
What's the move? Like, what do you see there? Like, do they make a trade for, I don't know, say Giannis? Do they go after a guy like that, a superstar at that level? Would you trade Evan Mobley for Giannis Antetokounmpo, given where they are in their respective stages of their career? Do you go after a guy like KD? Should either of them become available? Or is it more about building more depth or even better depth than what they currently have in their roster?
I kind of think you just take a step back and maybe this is too lukewarm of a take for me. Maybe you just don't overreact to it. Like, yes, it's disappointing. The Pacers they were the better team in this series. They were the better team across 4 out of 5 games, and they outplayed you. They flat out outplayed you. You weren't ready for their style of play. I felt like the Cavs were playing on their heels for too much of this series. They weren't ready for the tempo with which the Pacers played with. And I don't even know if how are the Knicks going to handle this Pacers team, right? If they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. And that brings us to our actual final point here. We're going to get a quick update on the Jayson Tatum injury from Locked On Celtics host John Corrales.
John Corrales here from the Locked On Celtics podcast. The Celtics have announced that Jayson Tatum has suffered a ruptured Achilles tendon and has undergone surgery to repair it. The surgery was successful, and no timeline has been set for his return. They do expect him to make a full recovery, but that's still going to be complicated. Typical return for an Achilles tendon injury like this can be somewhere between 6 and 12 months. First step is heal from the surgery. Then there is a long process of rehabbing, not just the leg, but having the mental rehab to deal with a catastrophic injury that he's never dealt with before. So there is no doubt that Tatum will miss at least the beginning of the upcoming season. He's who knows if he's going to be back around Christmas time. 6 months would bring him somewhere around the holidays. If it's longer, then obviously that takes him into the All-Star break and beyond. Who knows where the Celtics are going to be after that.
All right, David. Are the Celtics just completely done without Jayson Tatum? Or do you think they still have some life in this series and still are able to maybe put up a fight and extend this thing to, they've got game 5, right? And that's the Knicks could close it out here.
I think they have a chance to win a game, but I don't think I have a chance in the series. Like, we've seen their complementary players step up even on a night when Tatum is struggling offensively and he's not quite the factor that you expect him to be. So we know that they're capable of overcompensating or compensating for these kind of losses over the course of the season and the playoffs and stuff like that. They're good enough, they're deep enough, they're experienced enough. Mazzulla's a good enough coach. We know he can force something out of them, draw blood from the stone here and get them to a victory. But I mean, their season looks like it's done. Their championship window looks like it's done. And I mean, they might be forced to make some wide sweeping changes here, given, I mean, John seemed like he was overly optimistic about a 6-month possibility, but it seems like it's more likely that he'll miss almost all of next season. That being the case, that kind of sets you back so significantly as a franchise. They may have to entertain ways of trading key players on this roster, given the fact that they have incredible financial constraints coming up next season and beyond. So it's unfortunate, as somebody who covers this team, the Heat, I know that an animosity between Heat fans and Celtics fans, but you never want to see a player go down to injury. And it's sad that it happened for a player in his prime, somebody who we've talked about as a potential face of the NBA moving forward, a guy who's accomplished a great deal in his short career. And yet it doesn't seem overly positive for him in the near future, but you hope that he can bounce back and find a way to regain the strength level that he's been at and play at a high level moving forward.
It's really disappointing too, the way that it happened, right? With how incredible he was playing there in game 4, the 42-point outing, just really tough break for him. And of course, hopefully a fast and speedy recovery and hopefully he gets back to, a full return to form. And yeah, look, the Celtics, they've got a ton of talent. They're top 5 outside of Tatum, still incredibly gifted, but they're going to need better than a combined 16 points on 5 of 13 shooting from Al Horford, Drew Holiday, and Kristaps Porzingis if they want to have a fighting chance here in game 5 to extend the series. But With that, that's going to do it for our edition here of Locked On NBA Game Night. Thanks so much for being here with us on Locked On NBA Game Night. For your next listen, go find the Locked On Show for your favorite team. Until then, we'll catch you guys on our very next game night.